Hello and thank you for coming to my channel. This is Rick's Garage and today we're building Pack 7, stages 31 to 35 of iXO Collections, the Willys Jeep. Now I put a link in the descriptions and a QR code on screen that will take you right on over to iXO Collections if you'd like to get this for yourself. So now let's get started. So in stage 31 it looks like we're going to be working on the radiator, so let me get this pack open. So we start off on assembling the front and rear panel of the radiator, and these two lugs here are going to go in these two holes right there and fit in just like that. Now if you try to do it the other way around, the lugs do fit in, but you'll notice that it's not flush. This is not flush to the back housing, so that's a clue that you've got this in the wrong way. You want it around this way with the flange going toward this round portion right here. Match those screw hole lugs into those holes and you got yourself a nice flush fit. We're going to turn that over and we're going to secure that in with two EP screws. Now EP screws are a flange screw and they are new to this build. We haven't had this particular screw yet in our build, so this is a new one and we'll just screw that right in like that. Okay, we take our radiator cover looking like this. There is a round notch right here that's going to follow the curvature of this part here. So there's only one way this can go in. Look, two lug holes here, those two lugs right there, match it right in. That's a push to fit, and that's how that looks. And we secure that in right here with a CP screw. Now this cover really doesn't need a CP screw to secure it in. It actually secures in pretty well on its own, but the instructions do say to secure it, so I'm putting a CP screw right in there, just like that, and that's our top cover on. Then we're going to cover that hole, that screw hole there, with a radiator cap. The radiator cap does have a lug right here at the top. Don't know if the camera can see that, but it's right there. That lug is going to match up with the notch that's right here, and that's our radiator cap in. Okay, next I'm going to bring my part work upgrade mat over because we're going to need to bring the chassis over and turn it upside down. Turn it up like so. We take our radiator in this way around like this with the open side facing toward the front. We place it underneath the axle area here, lining these two holes with these two screw holes here and here. So it's going to go on like that. And we're going to secure that in with two CP screws. Okay, and there they are screwed in here and here. And we'll turn the chassis over. I'll zoom out just a little bit. Like that. There's our radiator looking like that. And there it is at the front. Okay, now I'm going to turn the chassis over one more time and point something out. When you're installing this here, I'm going to zoom back in. When you're installing this, these screws right here, you are going to need, or at least I did, my magnifying glass because it was very hard to see the screw holes and line them up properly. So if you don't have one of these glasses, this type of a headset is what I'm using and it's got a light on it. I would highly advise you get something in order to see those screw holes because these do come in handy. I'll put a link in the descriptions on where I got this, but this has been proven to be invaluable in my builds. Okay, so that's our radiator installed, and that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, in stage 32, it looks like we got some details to put onto the chassis or to the engine. But I think in this stage also, we're going to be mounting the engine to the chassis as well as the front grille. So this might be a little bit more of a detailed stage than what we think, just by looking at this pack right here. So let's get all this open and see what we got. Okay, the first thing that we need are these mount brackets. I think that's what these are. And you'll notice that there is a large dip here and a small dip up here. I believe the instructions are really not all that clear. I'm sure I'll find out later on, but right now I'm going to put it in this configuration where the large part of this clip is going to be toward the front of the chassis. So I'm going to put these right in here. They just kind of, probably can't use my tweezers, but they're just going to go right here under these two lugs right here on the sides. Now I hope I got those in right, because those are a very firm and tight fit, and getting them out might be a problem. So those are the clips that I have in. Okay, and next we have our hoses. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. And I believe that these are the cables for the battery. So let's get these out. There we go. Let me put one of the hoses on here like so. I'm using my tweezers to enlarge the hole a little bit because this is going to be a very tight fit. So I'm going to let that sit in there to widen that hole a little bit. And there we have it. Now there's different ways of doing this. You can take your tweezers and try to widen the hose. You can take a toothpick to do the same thing. You can put it into your mouth and let the heat of your mouth soften up that hose a little bit to try to get it onto the lug. What I actually ended up doing was I got some hot water, not boiling water, just hot water. I let it sit in the hot water for about a minute or two, and then I was able to get the hoses on really without a problem. Okay, now we bring our chassis over, and we take our lead for the battery, the small one, and there is a lug right down there that this is going to go on to. You probably can't see it on camera, but it's all the way down in there. I'm going to probably put a little bit of glue on that lug to keep that hose in place, but that's where this is going to go. Okay, in order for me to get this lead for the battery to get into this lug down here, I had to remove the radiator, and for me that's very irritating. I think the instructions should have had us put this in first before we put in the radiator. I hate taking parts off to put on a part that we should have been asked to put on prior to. But the only way that I was able to get this in was to remove the radiator. So I'm going to reinstall that radiator and continue on with the build. Okay, once you've attached your cable from the battery down to that lug down between the battery and the radiator, you then just slip that connection right into the battery like you see there. Okay, so now we move our chassis over to the side for a moment, and we bring over our engine, which we haven't seen for a while. And right here, there's a lug on the alternator where we're going to attach this long battery cable to right here. Okay, there's my lead attached to the lug, and I did glue that in. It's a small lug, and that hose did go on quite loose, and I didn't want that to fall out, so I went ahead and glued that in. Okay, now I'm going to bring my part work upgrades mat over, and then bring over our chassis, right like that, and we're now going to mount our engine. There is an exhaust pipe right here. We're going to make sure that the pipe goes between this bar and the chassis, so it's going to wrap around in through there. Then we have these mounting holes right here for the engine. We have one here, here, and here. So let me go ahead and get this positioned in, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, when you're mounting your engine onto the chassis, you want to do it in at an angle so that the fan blade goes into the radiator. While at the same time, let's see if I can't turn this around so you can see it. While at the same time, you want to take this muffler or the exhaust pipe that goes from the engine. You want to make sure that it goes between the steering column and the chassis. Now it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering to get this in, to get all the secure points in. So you've got a mounting point here and a mounting point on the other side, and you have another mounting point right over here, which we're going to secure in with FM screws. So let me get all this secured in, and we'll come back and I'll show you what that looks like. Right back here, we're going to secure the engine with a DM screw. The DM screw is going to go right into there. Okay, now we turn our chassis over and we connect the two ends of the exhaust pipe in right there, and I'm going to probably end up gluing that in because it doesn't really fit in nice and snug, so I'm going to end up gluing that. Okay, there's our engine mounted on the front or on the top, and that's how it looks underneath. Okay, next we take our battery lead that we have down here, and we connect that wire from the alternator all the way up to the battery right there. Okay, next we take our grill that we started on our pack 1, looking like that, and there are two lugs on the bottom, a lug here and a lug over here, and then we have mounting screws that are going to go here and here, and we're going to have two more on each side, here and there. So you have to line up all those points. So the first thing that you do, or that I'm going to do, is I'm going to first align these lugs into the holes and the brackets that we installed earlier, here and here. Okay, getting the front grille positioned correctly is going to take some time and maneuvering. It took me about 10 minutes to get this in position. So I wanted to show you what you need to do. You need to align quite a few parts. One of the areas that you need to align up is that you want to make sure that the lugs on the bottom of the grill goes into this part right here that you've got on both sides. That's going to properly align up the screw holes that you're going to need to put in through here. You also need to align these two mounting points right here that's going to go on the fender, and then while at the same time, turn this over, you have a mounting point right here that you also need to align. And this screw hole or this mounting lug goes underneath this bar. So you need to make sure that when you're putting in your grill that this mounting area is going underneath the bar as you're trying to maneuver this into position. So that's going to take some time to do. Take your time on it because it is not easy. At least it wasn't easy for me to get to this point. So I'm going to secure this in with CM screws on these two mounting areas here. Now I'm not going to secure these in tight. Just want to put them in enough in order to keep the grill in place while I line up all the other screw points. Okay, on both sides we're going to use 2 DM screws. Okay, and the last secure place that you need to apply a DM screw is right here underneath the chassis. This hole did not line up with the hole on this bar right here. So it took a lot of maneuvering. I had to use some tweezers and a lot of pressure to press against the grill to get that hole lined up enough in order to get that screw in. So that took a lot of doing. It probably took me about 10 minutes to get that screw in. Okay, once everything is all then more or less aligned, I'm going to go back around and tighten up all these screw points. And there's our front grille installed. This actually took about 30 minutes for me to get that all positioned, all the screw holes and mounting points all lined up properly. The most difficult part of this entire assembly, believe it or not, was getting that bottom screw hole down here for the DM screw aligned up. That was the only screw hole that did not align up correctly for me. But other than that, it wasn't too hard to get that grill in, but you do need to take your time because you have all these points that you need to align up. You need to align the lugs down here to those mounting brackets. You need to align these mounting brackets up here that you see up on the fender, and then you also have to align the 2 holes that are down here, these on both sides. You have 2 screw holes down here, and then of course you also have that screw hole down here, the DM screw that didn't line up for me, right down there. So you have all those mounting areas that you have to align up. But if you take your time, just do one side at a time, you should not have any real problems on trying to get that installed. Okay, next we need to take our radiator sleeve, which is all plastic, and this end here is going to go into the hole on the top of the radiator right there, and there are 3 mounting points on this triangle that are going to align up with the holes that you see here on the top of the engine, here, here, and here. The tricky part is to align this up so that this end here ends up into the top of the radiator like that. Push it around and maneuver it so that this triangle part is underneath all the hoses, and it can be properly aligned with those mounting points. So it's going to go in something like that. So let me get that in, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, now this radiator hose is going to fit onto the engine. This is going to be a little bit difficult to show on screen because of where the mounting points are. But there is a lug right here where it's going to, this is going to attach to that lug there. And then way down at the very bottom of the radiator, I don't know if I can actually show this to you or not, but right down there is another hole where this end of the radiator is supposed to go into, or this hose is supposed to go into. So let me try to get this in, and I'll show you how that looks once it's installed. Okay, there's that hose in. Attaches right here, goes all the way down to the radiator. If we turn our chassis upside down, right here is the radiator hose right there, and it goes right into, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a hole right here where it goes into the radiator. That's a very tricky part to put in. That took me about 20 minutes, but I managed to get it in. It's not easy, but we got it. Okay, next we take our gearbox cover, which is plastic. We have two lugs underneath, here and on this corner here. You turn your part around this way, and that one lug is going to go into this hole, and this other lug is going to go into that hole up there. So it's going to fit in just like this. And we're going to secure that in with 2 EM screws. And there's our cover in place. And that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, in stages 33 and 34, we're going to construct and mount the 2 front wheels to the chassis. So I'm going to combine both of those into one video, or to one segment here. So let me get this wheel assembled, and I'm going to put this into some hot water that I have right over here, and I'm going to soak that into hot water for about 2 minutes. Okay, bring up my towel, take the wheel out of the water, I'll dry it off a little bit. Okay, and we take our first part of the wheel, which is this right here, push it down in, turn it over. Like the second part here, align the 4 screw holes with the 4 screw holes here, and screw that in with 4 BM screws. Take our brake drum, turn the wheel over that way, take our brake drum, align the 2 holes on top of the 2 holes, screws right there, and secure those in with 2 CM screws. Okay, now we have our 2 wheels assembled. Put those aside for a moment. Bring over our chassis, tilt it over this way. Okay, we take our wheel this way around and we thread it through the axle right there. Drop our washer in and secure that in with a QM screw. And we turn our chassis back over again, and we do the same thing on the other side. Take our wheel, put it onto the axle, get our washer, put our washer in, take a QM screw, dip it in a little bit of oil, and secure that in. And we now have a rolling chassis. And that's all there is to do in that stage. Okay, in stage 35, it looks like we have more details to add to the chassis, so let's get this open. Okay, now before we get on with the stage, I'm going to bring the chassis over a little bit here, and I want to share a little bit with you a problem that I had with this wheel that you see here. This is the front left wheel. When I first assembled it and started to roll the chassis across the surface, that wheel was not turning. And so what I ended up doing was I used a little bit more grease around the brake area, the brake drum, all around the disc, as well as where the wheel attaches to the uh, axle. And that seems to be doing the trick. Now the grease that I use is this grease right here. I'll put a link down in the descriptions below. This is going to probably last you 100 years. And this is what I use to lubricate everything that needs to be lubricated, wheels, gears, what have you. And once I put a little bit more grease onto that wheel, now it's starting to turn. And I wanted to share that with you because you might have that problem as well. And that was how I was able to solve my issue. Okay, so let's get on with the final stage. Okay, the first thing that we need is the front bumper looking like that. And we're going to slip it over this bar that's in the front, and these two screw holes on both sides are going to line up with these screw holes right here on top. So this is going to go on just like this, and we're going to secure that in with 4 DM screws. Okay, we're going to line up our screw holes and screw in our first screw right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, once you have one screw in, all the other ones will line right up. So we'll get all the rest of them in. Okay, now I'm going to move my chassis over here for a moment, bring out my part work upgrades mat, bring back over the chassis, turn it upside down, and I'm going to attach 4 more DM screws on underneath. 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. And there's our front bumper installed. Okay, now we're going to assemble our tow hook that's going to go on back of the Jeep. So we take this part here, which is plastic. All these parts are plastic. We're going to take this release lever in that position like that. We're going to slip it down into this part, and we're going to secure that in with an FP screw. So the way I'm going to assemble this is that I'm going to get my screws started in first, just like that, until I can see it coming out just barely from the other side. Then I'm going to slip this part right in so it catches inside that screw. Okay, next I'm going to take the hook itself this way around, taking the part that we just assembled. This screw hole here is going to go through that screw hole right there. And I'm going to secure that in with an FP screw. Okay, just like before, I'm going to first start the screw in. And then continue on until I can barely see it coming out the other side. Okay, then I'm going to take our part, slip it over the hole, and then continue to fix it in place. Okay, now we got the Jeep over here on the back, and we're going to attach our hook to the back of the Jeep with the lever that we installed facing up. There are 2 holes on opposite corners of this part. I'm going to secure it on the back of the Jeep just like that with 2 CM screws. And there's our hook in place. And you can lift it up and down. And this also moves forward and back. I'm disappointed that this part is not metal. I was hoping that it would be, but the whole thing is in plastic. It is what it is. But that's all there is to that stage, and that's all there is to do in that pack. Now, I put a link in the descriptions and a QR code that will take you right over to iXO Collections if you'd like to get this for yourself. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, as this does help the channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, as that not only helps the channel, but will also notify you of new videos that have been posted. Other than that, always have fun in your garage, your workshop, or wherever it is you build your models. Until next time, thanks for watching.